Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, as always, Kurt Stockwell.
Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
Hey, Kurt, how about them Broncos? Oh,
Woo,
wait.
man, they're having a tough year. Yeah, well,
yeah.
let's see. This is gonna air in February. I could
Super Bowl should be over.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the prediction they will not win the Super Bowl.
Sorry about that. I know that was hard for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're rebuilding. I guess we're saying that over the last 5 years.
It's been a 5-year rebuilding process. Well,
Right.
Listen, there's an aspirational identity for them out in the future. They just have to find what that is,
That's right.
They're trying to find their way back to who they're supposed to be or who they want to become.
I'm predicting the future very accurately, I would assume. And it's almost like, I'm reading the mind of everybody else out there who probably already recognizes and understands they don't have a chance.
Well, in their future somewhere, in their aspirational identity, they do.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is a great segue, Kurt, because today we're talking about what?
We're talking about becoming a mind reader. Yeah, so that was our attempt at a really clever segue. Yeah, well,
I thought it was great.
I guess the listeners can decide if they thought that was clever or not.
Well, I think where we end up going with becoming a mind reader, part of that is understanding the aspirations of people. And I think sometimes people even forget what their aspirations are because they failed so many times. You and I had a conversation in the green room before hitting record about so much of life. It feels like so many miles of life are done in failure, not in success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have enough failure, you start to lose some of that aspiration. Mm-hmm. So becoming a mind reader is really important in your marketing and in your business because how you connect with people on those miles of failure is everything.
Yeah.
If you come into conversation with people from a place that does not validate or acknowledge where people feel like they're failing, right? Or in other words, they feel like you're reading their mind, then what happens is their reticular activator doesn't pick it up. They completely miss what it is you're trying to say because you're not relevant. So that's my segue. But you tell me, because you had your whole frame here for mind reading. What do you mean by mind reading?
Well, we've all experienced it before when you're working with a company that just really understands you, or you're reading their marketing copy, or you're watching their marketing video, or you're talking to the sales guy, and you're like, man, it's like they're reading my mind. They know exactly what's going on in my head related to the problem that I need solved. And that can, as you know, with this idea of creating better marketing that's more human, whether you're a plumber or whether you're doing financial planning for retirement, it's all the same exercise and discipline of understanding where your customers are, where they are and where they want to be. So the idea of the aspirational identity or what your customer or the person who's buying your product or service wants to become, when you understand that, you can create very human marketing, very empathetic marketing that just makes people go, wow, they really get me.
How does one become a mind reader? Like, how do we tap into those thoughts?
Well, the StoryBrand framework, as you know, it's a 7-part framework, and really it's kind of 8 parts. Yep. The 7 parts are: you have a character, 1, who has a problem; 2, they meet a guide; 3, that guide gives them a plan for success. That's 4. The call to action is 5, and then helping them find success is 6, and avoid failure is 7. But really the 8th part of it is where you start. And the journey of any hero, or the journey in any story, is that we read or we watch, is you're watching this character go from not being adequate to being adequate, or from not being strong enough to being strong enough, or from lost to having direction, or from the fear to confidence, right? That's the kind of the foundation of any great story. And it's the same thing with our customers. And this journey is they're looking to go from something to something, from, with like the financial planning aspect of what we mentioned earlier, from having fear and anxiety about retiring to confidence in retiring, right?
Right.
And so the aspirational identity is really the first part that we start with on that journey for helping businesses create better marketing, is that final piece, which is what you're helping your customers become.
Yeah.
And having that conversation is where I start with a business. Is my first question is, what does your customer want to become? And often it kind of takes people by surprise, and they're like, wow, that's a great question. Well, and it's funny because a lot of businesses are like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, why are they buying this product? Like, at the end of the day, what is this doing for them?
Right.
Oh, well, man, I never thought about it that way. But that's the problem,
question. Yeah.
right? That's the problem, I think, with so much marketing that we're inundated with every day, and all of this, this overwhelm of information. It's a bunch of information that we don't know how it fits into our life. It's obvious that the person on the other side of this messaging doesn't understand me, because they're talking about all these aspects of their system or process that I don't even understand why it works in my life. If somebody would just say, this is going to help you have more confidence in your retirement, or this is going to help you worry less about, fill in the blank. And that's really all you need to say, Once I understand that, like, okay, I'm in. How are you going to help me worry less? Right. But we're as businesses and as marketers, as marketing our own products or services, we're so enamored with the like the what and the how, and the minutia of the product, that we forget that at the end of the day, somebody's just looking for their problem to be solved, and they're looking to transform into a better version of themselves.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's it's such a simple question. Like, who does your customer want to become? But I think too, it taps into empathy. Like, that's the human side of business and marketing, is empathy.
Yeah.
It's not logic. It's empathy. It's intuition. It's emotional intelligence. And I think when you can feel into who your customer wants to become, and then put words to it through a web page or through a one-liner, through any kind of marketing collateral, any of that, that's what I think the experience your customer has, is they go, wow, like, you get me, you've read my mind. How did you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't get that with X's and O's, features and benefits. You don't get that with features and benefit marketing. Benefit marketing doesn't touch that.
Yeah. And when you realize that that's really the secret sauce in your sales pitch, is not the features and benefits, it's the aspirational identity, or who your customer wants to become, then you can confidently lead with that. Because I think a lot of people lead with the features and benefits because they're like, I need to prove to you that I'm worth this, worth your time, worth your money, worth your investment. And all people are saying is, what's in it for me? The features and benefits, I don't have any interest in what that is or what you're talking about, because I don't understand what's in it for me.
It's interesting too, when you think about how competitive businesses can be. Like, if I have a business and I'm going to look out in the marketplace and see other businesses that kind of do what I do, and I'm going to try to create features and benefits that are a little bit different than their features and benefits. Like, there's a lot of competition around features and benefits. So when you find the empathy and you tap into the aspirational identity, you all of a sudden rise above the competition, and there's no competition. Nobody's marketing from a place of aspirational identity.
Right.
You have carved out your own vertical, your own lane, because everybody else is down here in a lower vibration trying to compete with each other on features and benefits.
Right. Or algorithms that get your message in front of more people, and click-throughs and analytics and all of that stuff. And we've talked about that before. Like, when you become a slave to those numbers, really, they don't tell the true story.
Yeah.
And I think that, the best kind of, and everybody would agree with this, the best kind of referral is the word of mouth. That's by far the statistics of word of mouth marketing just crush any other type of statistic related to, how leads are acquired or
Oh,
customers are acquired.
cost per lead, cost per acquisition, any of the conversion of all that. Yeah.
Word of mouth just crushes all of that. And
Yeah.
so when you've got a customer who's not only thrilled with those features and benefits that you know they're going to like,
Yeah.
they like all of those, but what they talk about is not, hey, this feature and this benefit and this feature and this benefit. What they talk about is they really understood where I was coming from. It was almost kind of like they were reading my mind about what I needed.
I think you had a great example from
stuff.
What's that?
I said, that's the magic stuff.
It is. It is. I think you had an example from Steve Jobs. I think he got that in a really big way.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs, if you look back at, and still to this day, Apple's marketing is a byproduct of what Steve was really pushing, even way back from the 80s.
Right.
There's the story where I think it was the Lisa computer. They put out like a 2-page advertisement of all of the specifics and the features and the benefits of a personal computer, and it was a complete failure. And then they put out a single page ad that was, I think different, right? Yeah. And what Steve did in that type of messaging and all through the 90s, and currently Apple's still doing this, is when he was bringing the idea of a personal computer before the general, average Joe or average Jolene, he was saying there's a hidden genius inside you. Mm-hmm. There's a hidden, superhero inside of you. And all you need is this computer to release your potential. Yeah. I mean, that's really all he was saying. Yeah. And people were like, yes, there is a hidden genies inside of me. Good. Yes, I do have hidden potential. And I do want to have the same access that these industries do, I mean, that's why you hear these success stories and these, what they say, overnight success. I don't think there's anything true and there's no such thing as an overnight success, because for years you were grinding and hustling. Right. But when you hear about industries that get turned on their head and another industry or industry leader kind of comes in the picture, at some point they rose to their current level of power or influence because there was a more tangible human thing to connect to than the industry leaders were for decades and decades and decades. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's story after story of that.
It's such a great example of how your product or your service is a tool or a bridge to their potential. It's not about your product. It's not about your computer. It's what your product or service does to get them to who they want to be. Like that. Such a great example. This computer will release your potential.
Exactly. And when you do this, you're selling more than products. You're making the world a better place is really what's happening.
How do people say no to themselves? You're basically selling people a truer, better version of themselves.
Yeah.
Who says no to that? Like, I want to be the best version of myself. And if you can position your product and your service as a bridge to that thing, like that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, how do we do this? How do we begin to, do you have a way to help us do this?
Of course I do.
How do we read minds, Kurt? How do
we read minds? Yeah. Well, for years, Well-Dressed Walrus was, building websites and building, and we still do that, and building, digital assets. But I personally am moving into more of a role of a business coach. Mm-hmm. And so the aspect of business coaching was really the mastering the skills needed to improve all areas of your business. And one of those areas is messaging. One of those areas is communicating your brand in a messaging framework that we talked about with those 7 parts. And it starts with the aspirational identity. Yeah. So if you go to herostory.coach, you can see a list of things that this coaching arm of Well-Dressed Walrus is going to start to kind of bring to the forefront. And one of those pieces is the story brand messaging framework. On that website, herostory.coach, you can take a business MRI. So the business MRI is essentially a series of questions that will give me an idea of kind of where you are in your business, where you feel stuck. And from things like, creating better guiding principles for your business, creating a clear message, developing a marketing plan, creating a sales framework, creating an execution plan, all of those things that you need to run a better business. This business MRI will kind of give us an idea where to start. And so herostory.coach, the reason why we call it Hero Story is there's a hero of every story. In every story, there's a hero. In your personal life, you're the hero. In your business's story, your customer's the hero. So really the idea is who's the hero in the story? And if you don't know the answer to that, you're likely losing out on opportunities and, sales.
I love it. So the place to go is herostory.coach.
Herostory.coach, yeah.
Not .com.
Not .com. Couldn't get that one.
.coach. Herostory.coach. I love it. I love it. And I love the idea of an MRI because I think it's so helpful to have ways to diagnose or have a diagnostic on, what's working, what's not working. Business is so much more complicated than just one thing, and to have a comprehensive look at it makes total sense to me. So herostory.coach. Awesome. Kurt, any last minute words of wisdom for people as it relates to helping people step into their potential and become mind readers?
Yeah. I think, like we talked about in the last podcast, carving out time for rest, do yourself a favor in this new year is carve out some time to focus on the important things of your product. And the important things of your product is not ultimately the features and benefits. It's how is it helping your customer win the day? How is it helping them become a better version of themselves?
So good. Awesome. Well, with that, thank you, Kurt, for your time. Until next time, be well.
Thanks, Chris.